The chamber was built to intimidate. The Galactic Sovereignty Council had designed it that way, ceilings that stretched 40 meters high, walls lined with the crystalline flags of 217 member civilizations, and a floor of polished obsidian that reflected everything back at you in darker tones. It was a room engineered to make you feel small. Fleet Admiral Nathan Cross did not feel small. He stood at the center podium with his hands clasped behind his back, his gray dress uniform immaculate, a single row of service medals catching the cold light. He was 53 years old, lean, with the kind of stillness that came not from peace but from absolute certainty. Behind him, his aide, Lieutenant Joe, held a data slate. Across the room stood Commander Kale of the Vreth Dominion, the Council's appointed enforcement arm, arms crossed over his broad chest, four eyes fixed on the human like a predator watching something it had already decided was prey. Admiral Cross. Kale's translator rendered his voice in crisp, accented English, a political choice, not a technical one. The Council's position is simple. Earth signed the Armistice of Velar 7. Article 12 is explicit. No member civilization may maintain a standing warfleet exceeding 40 vessels of destroyer class or above. Nathan said nothing. Kale continued. Our long-range surveillance confirmed Earth currently operates 312 such vessels. This is a violation. The penalty, as you are aware, is forced disarmament and a 50-year suspension of Council membership. Around the chamber, the assembled delegates leaned forward. Some with curiosity. Some with hunger. Nathan cleared his throat. Commander Kale. May I ask what your surveillance window covers? Kale's expression didn't change. 60 light years. Standard Council protocol. And your scans were conducted 4 of your weeks ago. Nathan nodded slowly. I see. He looked up at the high ceiling for a moment, as though considering the architecture. We're in compliance. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. Kale raised one heavy hand and silence fell like a dropped hammer. You cannot be in compliance, Kale said. We have visual confirmation. 312 warships. Bearing Earth registry codes. Armed. Active. We're armed. We're active. Nathan reached into his jacket and produced a physical document, paper, deliberately anachronistic, a human habit the Council found both charming and baffling. He placed it on the podium. 6 weeks ago, Earth officially decommissioned its entire standing warfleet. Every ship, every destroyer, cruiser, and dreadnought in active service decommissioned, transferred to the Earth Reserve Mothball Authority, and flagged as non-combat heritage assets. He paused. Your surveillance caught the tail end of the ceremony, Commander. Those ships were being paraded to their retirement berths. Delegate New York of the Karathi Confederacy, a species that resembled upright mantises and were known for their mathematical precision, buzzed quietly and pulled up a data feed. She froze. Kale's jaw tightened. You decommissioned your entire fleet. In compliance with Article 12. Earth currently maintains 38 active warships. Well within treaty parameters. Nathan allowed himself a small smile. We're actually 2 ships under the limit. We were being conservative. This is a trick, Kale said flatly. You have stripped Earth's defenses as a political stunt. You cannot have simply. Delegate De, Nathan said, turning to the hegemony's representative, a tall, silver-skinned figure who had been conspicuously silent. Would your people be willing to provide independent verification of Earth's current active military register? Delegate Di's full name Wadi, though humans inevitably shortened it, straightened slightly. The hegemony and Earth had a quiet but long-standing arrangement of mutual respect. We would, Wadi said carefully. And we have, in fact, already done so. At Earth's invitation, 2 weeks ago. Kale turned to look at Wadi with something very close to alarm. Wadi's silver features arranged themselves into the hegemony's equivalent of a shrug. 38 vessels. We verified them personally. Earth is in compliance. The chamber went quiet in a different way now. Not the silence of outrage. The silence of people recalculating. Kale turned back to Nathan. You dissolved your entire war fleet, he said, slowly, to comply with a treaty you could have simply ignored. No enforcement mechanism could have compelled you. A pause. Why? Nathan considered the question as though it deserved genuine respect. Because we signed the treaty, he said simply. That landed strangely. Commander Kale had spent 40 years in galactic diplomacy. He had seen civilizations sign treaties and immediately begin working around them. He had seen civilizations sign treaties as delay tactics while building weapons behind asteroid belts. He had seen civilizations treat armistice agreements as temporary inconveniences. He had never seen a civilization dismantle 300 warships, 300, because it had made a promise. The decommissioned vessels, Kale said carefully. They still exist. In mothballs. Heritage assets. We've opened several as museums. Nathan's aide, the lieutenant he always called Joe, quietly passed him a second document. 54 ships are being converted to civilian deep space exploration. 12 are being used as training hulls by our maritime academies, no weapons, no drives rated for combat. The remainder are in secure storage. He placed the second document on the podium beside the first. Fully auditable. Delegate New York buzzed again, more urgently this time. She was scrolling through something on her data slate, and her posture, usually coiled with predatory focus, had gone very still. Admiral, she said, I am looking at Earth's shipbuilding capacity metrics from the last 14 months. Nathan waited. You have tripled it, New York said. The chamber went very cold. We have invested significantly in our shipyards, yes, Nathan agreed pleasantly. You have tripled your construction capacity, New York repeated, as though the words needed to be said again to be real. 14 new orbital dry docks. 7 lunar surface facilities. An entirely new deep space construction platform beyond the asteroid belt. She looked up. At your current build rate, Admiral, Earth could replace its entire decommissioned fleet in, she paused, calculating. 11 months. Silence. Complete, total silence. Kale was staring at Nathan with 4 eyes that had gone very wide. Nathan said nothing. You destroyed your fleet, Kale said slowly, to comply with the treaty. And then you built the infrastructure to rebuild it 10 times over. He stopped. How many ships can your current capacity produce annually? Nathan looked at him for a long moment. Commander, he said gently, that information isn't covered by Article 12. The room understood then. All 217 delegations, in their seats, in their crystalline flags, in their intimidating 40-meter chamber, they understood what had just happened. Earth had not been caught violating a treaty. Earth had obeyed the treaty. Completely, verifiably, without loopholes. And in the same motion, Earth had quietly built the largest warship production apparatus in the known galaxy, untouchable under any existing agreement, ready to manufacture a fleet that would dwarf anything the Council had ever catalogued, in under a year. They hadn't hidden a fleet. They had hidden the factory. Delegate High of the Pellucid Reach, normally among the most vocal of Earth's critics, had not spoken in 12 minutes. When she finally did, her voice was careful. Admiral Cross. The Council would appreciate clarification on Earth's long-term intentions. Peace, Nathan said immediately. We want exactly what we've always wanted. Safe passage for our ships. Fair trade agreements. Protection for our colonies. And the reasonable assurance that if anyone decides the armistice of Velar 7 is inconvenient for them, Earth will not find itself unarmed. He paused. We are not a threat to anyone who is not a threat to us. He let that sit. Then, we simply prefer to be very clear about what being a threat to us would actually mean. Kale looked at the two documents on the podium. At Wadea across the room. At Delegate New York still staring at her data slate. He looked at Nathan Cross, at the stillness of him, the patience, the complete and utter absence of defensiveness. You knew, Kale said. You knew we were going to summon you. We suspected, Nathan agreed. And you prepared. We always prepare. Kale was quiet for a very long time. The Council, he said finally, finds Earth in compliance with the Armistice of Velar 7. Nathan nodded once. He collected his two documents, tucked them back into his jacket, and turned to leave. He stopped. Half turned back. One more thing, Commander. His voice was conversational. Almost warm. We've been working on a new class of vessel. We're calling it the Covenant class. First hull launches in 9 weeks. A small pause. We thought the Council should know. He walked out. Behind him, in a chamber built to make people feel small, 217 civilizations sat in silence and thought very carefully about the next 100 years. Earth had not come to beg. Earth had not come to argue. Earth had come to remind the galaxy of something it kept forgetting. The most dangerous thing in the universe was not a species that built weapons. It was a species that built promises, and kept every single one.